It's time to live life through the eyes of fit people so that you too can live a fit life yourself. This is Fit Because. I'm one of your hosts, Jennifer Zerling, but you can call me Jay-Z. I'm a fitness and age management expert, author, speaker, as well as an international health advocate.
And I'm your other host, George Viter. I'm an entrepreneur, cattle rancher, fitness enthusiast, and a 6-time rodeo champion who has a huge amount of knowledge to share with you in the area of self-improvement.
Oh, he does. Get ready to learn how to bridge the gap between knowing what to do and doing what it takes to become physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially fit.
You ready, Jay-Z?
Oh, I'm ready, George.
Let's dive in.
What's up, everybody? We are back, Jay-Z with George Viter, and we have episode number 7. We are going to be talking about excuses and owning accountability. This is a wonderful topic because I feel in all of my coaching, there's always excuses coming from my clients. And I know that their intentions are not to have those excuses, which is why they hired a coach, so they can overcome the barriers holding them back from getting to where they want to go. So in this episode, I know, George, you got a lot of great nuggets you're going to share with the audience. I want to start off by saying, and I want you to leap onto this one, honestly, excuses are a learned behavior. Yes. Okay. Right away when we decided to do this, I was like, oh my gosh, like right away I remember hearing in my head, you better have a good excuse for this. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's
right. Right.
So yeah. I'm like, well, wait a second. If it's so ingrained in us, how in the world are we going to eliminate the excuses? So let's dive into this. Let's have a really good time by giving a clear pathway for people to get rid of the excuses and to really take ownership of their path.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this topic because I think excuses are really a governor on our potential, and it does become a habit. It's one of the ways in which we react to our experiences in life when we get challenged or we think something's hard or we have difficulties in front of us. There's always that side of the brain that seeks the course of least resistance, and instead of doing what we need to do to overcome our challenge or deal with our adversity, we make an excuse. And Tony Robbins once said in one of his presentations that really affected me, he said, failure plus a good excuse does not equal success. But in our minds, sometimes we try to talk ourselves into that it does.
So when people stay in that vortex of having excuses and not moving forward, why do you think they continue to do that, knowing that they haven't gotten anywhere ahead?
Yeah, I think it's like a sedative, right? It makes us feel better temporarily to utilize an excuse instead of calling a spade, so to speak. You know, the opposite of using excuses is to be very brutally honest with ourselves, right?
Yes.
And realize that we have change to make in order to be what we need to be to accomplish what we want to accomplish, right?
That's right.
And in making an excuse, we excuse ourselves from our higher potential.
Right.
And it does become habit forming, and pretty soon we just default to that all the time. You've probably heard the saying that if people tell a lie over and over and over, at some point they embrace it as truth, right?
Right.
And to them it becomes true. Because our brain finally accepts it, our subconscious mind endorses it as truth, and then pretty soon we're operating on a lie we kind of forgot was a lie.
But what do you think is going on with human psychology that makes people feel like it's okay to continue with the excuses, even though it's easier because that's all they know? What is the fear of going the other way? Like, what might go wrong, do you think?
Failure. Everybody doesn't want to fail. So we all approach that in a different way. And successful people in any field, they distinguish themselves by looking at failure differently, like it's not fatal, like failure is just a part of the education process on the way somewhere where you want to go. And if you don't embrace that philosophy or that way of looking at things, and you're just constantly scared to fail, then instead of embracing the struggle, we utilize an excuse to give us a temporary reprieve
Right. And even with exercise, people don't
Yeah.
like the feeling of discomfort.
Yeah.
So they strive for the comfort. Like when I
Sure.
have clients running on a treadmill, they walk in between the running intervals because it's more comfy to walk. And I tell them, if you want to walk, you might as well take a yoga class and take Shavasana.
Right.
Because we're here to train, we're here to get stronger,
Right.
and we got to own discomfort. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. As far as being comfortable, being uncomfortable, a part of what needs to happen is we have to get clear. And I know I mentioned this in some way or form on every one of these vodcasts, but we have to decide exactly what it is that we want. And if we haven't made that declaration to ourselves and put it down on paper so that it's clear as far as where we intend to go, what we want out of life, what we want to be, have, or do, if that's not clear, then we have opened ourselves up to continually meandering and being driftless, so to speak.
Right.
So the first thing that gives us courage to go through the uncomfortableness is the clarity of where we're going, and that's got to compel us. That's got to be exciting, and that's got to overcome. That's got to be a more powerful emotion when we visualize where it is that we want to go, or what we want to build, or what we want to do. That's got to get us more excited than the discouragement of the fear.
So a very clear purpose.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I
necessary.
have my clients fill out a SMART form every time I start with them, specific, measurable, attainable, results driven, and time bound. Without goals, you can't get anywhere.
Right.
So with these, excuses and accountability, like I remember, it's also like when you do something wrong, okay? And I think that it's the fear of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
I remember in elementary school, remember those, I don't know if you ever ate chips, George, because you're so healthy, but you know how chips get air in them?
Yeah.
And when you go like that, it pops really loud, right? So in elementary school, all the students would go, "Oh, you," and you got detention, and it was devastating because then I wouldn't hear the rest of it from my parents. So I think also there's fear with things, and therefore there's excuses made around why people do things or say things or think things.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that because, man, elementary school, that was a long time ago, man.
Right. Yeah, it was. It was longer ago for me than you.
Yes, it was.
I think we get paralyzed when we learn to use excuses, or we develop the habit of making excuses. And so that paralyzes us from action. And in order to have any great thing happen to us, we have to first have the clear dream, know exactly what we want. And then we have to be clear about the struggle, right? There is a price to pay for any success. And part of that price is going to be massive action. You don't just do something a little bit and be great at it, right? You've got to go all in. So excuses keep you from going all in. It keeps you tentative. And you can't win big with a tentative attitude.
Yeah.
So you have the dream, then you have the struggle, and then you have the victory. But the victory can only be as great as the struggle was on the other side of that to get through. So we have to embrace the struggle. We have to be okay with weaknesses. And honestly, making excuses is really being dishonest with yourself and others and trying to paint a picture that you don't have weaknesses. You failed because of this other thing, not your weakness or not whatever it is that you're struggling with, right?
Right.
It's somebody else's issue or something else.
Or something out of your control.
Right. And then you lose your power to change once you've placed that somewhere else as aside from you.
Great point. So do you feel that when somebody's accountable and doesn't make an excuse, that they have power? Because I think that there's this connotation that by making an excuse, that gives them power. So how is it more empowering to not make an excuse?
Yeah, because when you don't make an excuse, and you mess up, or you fail, or you have a temporary roadblock on your way to where it is that you're trying to go.
Yeah.
When you don't make an excuse, you own it, and now you can change. And people respect you for that, right? Nobody's perfect. In fact, we all love underdogs. We love people, just we being the human family. We love seeing people that do things in spite of plausible excuses they could have used, right?
Correct.
We love that. The whole world starts cheering for you when you have that attitude. If you're this person that can't do anything wrong in your own mind, right? So you just make excuses to avoid really challenging yourself all the time. You're not a relatable person to most people if you're trying to put the facade on that you've got it all under control and you aren't dealing with any problems.
That's very
I don't
true.
know. I love to hear stories of people that had devastating problems where their hearts were broken for different reasons, and they picked themselves up and they learned from their mistakes and they went on to win. I love that. The struggle is what creates the character and creates the great juice to the victory. So embrace it,
And I 100% agree with you. So now let's translate that into corporate America, because, I mean, there's this whole phenomenon that, especially with the younger generation, that they see every single person in the company to avoid being accountable and losing their jobs and, being thrown under the bus. So how should those people take into their lives accountability and not getting themselves in trouble at work, but growing and showing their leaders that they're definitely capable of the job?
Well, it's a different way of looking at things, right? I mean, if we choose to be accountable for our own actions, then we're constantly looking for ways to add value, regardless of what it is that our endeavor is. We want to add value, add more and more and more value, and that's what job security is about, right? Once we start thinking that someone owes us something, right? We have that entitlement attitude. Then we're on that slippery slope, right? Then it's somebody else that's in control. And every time that we have a negative experience in our life, we're looking outside instead of looking inside. And then we lose the ability to accomplish change and accomplish growth or evolution as a person. So it's switching from it's somebody else's or I'm not accountable. There's other reasons or excuses why things aren't going well for me. And it's placing everything squarely on your shoulders, looking in the mirror and being honest and clear with yourself, and then creating a plan to add more value, right? Because honestly, winners win and losers lose. There's not like a dark cloud following anybody around, excluding them from the good things in life. It's their behavior. It's the way they're doing things that is causing that, right?
And their own limiting thoughts.
That's right.
So, but what if they have a leader who's that way?
Well, you can't control your leader, right?
So
your job is not to control your leader. Your job is to add value. And if you work for a company that's not recognizing your value, an opportunity will come for you to have your value recognized. So you just keep working on you. Success is all about personal improvement, and the opportunities come to you, right? As you grow and change and you demonstrate value based on your skill set and whatever your endeavor is.
Right.
You don't have to worry. It's like in rodeo. I've competed, those of you that watch these know, for years as a saddle bronc rider in professional rodeo. Well, rodeo is judged, and it's subjective judgment, right? You have two judges, typically, that are going to score your ride, how you did, and then how the horse performed. Well, these judges see things differently, right? They're individuals. It's subjective. It's not like a timed event.
Right.
It's all style and the interpretation of style, right? So everybody has the experience in my business of rodeo. Everybody has the experience of feeling like they got robbed, right?
Of course.
Like they should have been a bunch of points, but they weren't, and they didn't place, and it's the judge that ripped them off.
Okay.
Right? And so you deal with that in rodeo. And I've noticed that the real superstars in my sport, they never go there. They never go there. The attitude is, all I have to do is continue to ride better and better, and I'll win all that I'm supposed to win.
Very great attitude.
Right? And those people rise. But there are super talented people in my sport, as in any endeavor in life, that never really get where they have potential to go because they allow themselves to be soured by imagined prejudices. Right?
Yeah.
And we just have to know that if we do everything in our power to do our job and improve our skill sets and our core competencies, the success comes. It's inevitable. It's law. It will come.
This actually reminds me of a specific example. So, I have experience in medical weight loss and now age management medicine.
Yeah.
And I remember that whole year that I was dreading my job in medical weight loss because the management was demanding more sales of products. I didn't even believe in the products. And I couldn't do much more than what I was already doing. I was calling past patients. I was calling current patients. I mean, I did everything, but my mindset was almost like in victim mode. Like, I shouldn't have to handle this. I shouldn't have to deal with her. I shouldn't have to deal with all these unreasonable goals. So what I ended up doing, which is exactly why I am here today, is I drew my attention to the things in my control. What can I do differently? I ended up standing on the street with a scale and measuring random people coming from their lunch break, which they didn't really like me after that. But, you know, I basically stepped outside of my comfort zone and I said, you know what? I have to love this job because this is my job right now. And if I don't love this job, it's a tremendous disservice to the patients that are coming in and need my love and my expertise. And that lends itself to a certain level of confidence that I attained to get the better job in a different company where they appreciated me. So it's being in that experience, whatever the experience is, and owning it and stepping up to the plate and giving the best swing every day. So thank you for sharing your story.
I believe too, in my professional career with my employees, and I'll remind them of this. We have Monday morning meetings to start the week in my office, you know, to kind of outline activity and to be accountable to each other for what our team goals are. And I mentioned to them that I know as an employer, my job is to keep giving opportunity to my people to grow and expand and evolve, right? And I've got to be able to compensate them for that. I've got to see that as part of my vision as an employer, or my people will go elsewhere. That's the reality. The talent will walk across the street if it's not given opportunity where you are, right?
But you appreciate them.
I
so
do.
You're a unique situation.
But I get that. The thing is, the reality of my stance there is that my employees that are just great individuals, they're going to outgrow me, or the opportunity that I'm creating for them has to keep growing. So one way or another, they're going to win. That's who they are. They're great at what they do. They have great attitudes. They're special people. So they're going to succeed. Now, I can choose to create opportunities to allow them to succeed with me or to benefit my firm, or they'll go someplace else. And that's the same with us as individuals. If we feel like we're trapped due to boss or management or whatever limited opportunity, that's only in our minds. That's not true. If we just keep doing the best job and demonstrating value and growth, we'll either evolve with our firm or we will evolve out of our firm.
And be okay with that, because if you're evolving out of your firm, that means you're amazing.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Yeah. You know how life goes. Sometimes the things that we want the worst are not really the best for us. And
That's
we only know
true.
that in hindsight, right?
Yes.
And that could be, you know, applicable to a career situation where you think, gosh darn it, I want this promotion so bad. I'll do anything, and then the promotion doesn't come, or it's handed to somebody else that hasn't put in the work or whatever, or however you feel about that, then you will evolve into a different opportunity. That when that opportunity is embraced, you'll be grateful that the first option you were looking at didn't work out.
So how can they be grateful right now, like when it's happening? Because obviously no one wants to wait for the hindsight. They want to understand in the moment how to find the strength to get through that tough time.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to focus on the right things, right? You and I were talking about this, Jen, this morning, but whatever you focus on gets bigger. So if you're focusing on the reasons why something won't work, then that gets bigger and becomes more a reality for you. If you're focusing on the things that you have that will work, or the reasons that things will work, then that becomes your reality, and that becomes big in your life. And then possibilities and your attitude and your state and your vibration all get amped up. So it's the choice, and it's the work of the focus. That's not I know it's easy to say, but it's not easy to do, to keep defaulting back, because life gets messy, right? Stuff happens. No matter what our intentions are, you know, the old saying is that men make plans and God laughs, right? Because stuff is going to alter your plan.
And women make plans too.
Yeah, and women do too.
I'm just kidding.
I should clarify that. Some of my stuff's older.
I'm just messing with you.
So the big key is, and I'd mentioned this too when we talked earlier, but I think it's real mission critical in order to be successful in using excuses less and empowering yourself by being accountable. I think it's important to constantly study people's lives that have gone before that are good examples of this, right? Because whatever you're dealing with, or whatever excuse you're relying on to be the alibi for your lack of success, there are identical people to you as far as your orientation that have the same excuses they could use, but they ignore those excuses, you know?
Yes.
Just one excuse that I think of, if you want to change careers, there's something that you feel like you should do in your life, but you haven't done it yet, career-wise. Maybe you're in your 40s or your 50s and you're thinking, it's just past me. You know, I'm too old now. That could be an excuse. I'm too old, or I'm too young. I don't have the experience.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people won't trust me. Rarely do people ever feel like I'm the perfect age. There's always an excuse for why our age is fighting against us.
Yes.
But in that case, so like, let's say you're me. I'm in my 50s, and so when I consider my life and the things I want to accomplish, there is that part of my brain that will have that thought, because I'm human, that, you know, you're a little old to be taking on that project. Or maybe you should just be satisfied with what you've accomplished so far and not push yourself so hard.
Yes.
But then I can look at other people that have had the same life experience where they had late in life goals to accomplish, and their age actually motivated them because they had more of a sense of urgency than they did when they were younger, and it was a blessing, and the experience is a blessing. So you think about Harlan Sanders, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken founder, right? He didn't
Not like you eat there, but you're using
right,
that as an example.
I love his story. You know, he got his first Social Security check and he couldn't live on it.
Right.
And so then he went out to build his empire, which was tough, is brutal. Everybody needs to look at that. That'll take away your age excuse. You know,
He was 65, right?
Yes. I look at Satchel Paige, you know, who was a great baseball player. And when the Negro Leagues, because of his race, he couldn't be in the majors, so he just barely made a living, scratching out, you know, his baseball career living. But then when Jackie Robinson and some of these other people started getting drafted and they started crossing that line, Satchel Paige was an older guy. He was in his 40s before they started drafting, you know, colored people into professional sport or professional baseball. But he didn't let that discourage him. He started in his 40s and he became just this incredible athlete in major leagues. And he pitched his last game when he was 60. This is incredible. He didn't let age, he obviously could have used age as an excuse not to try, but he didn't, you know. There's story after story, you know. Jack LaLanne, he died when he was 97 years old. You know, he did a 2-hour workout the day he died.
I believe it.
He's just an incredible human being.
Yeah.
But he was big on not letting your age be an excuse. It should be a motivator, right?
Yes.
When you get to that age where you feel like you're going downhill, that just means you can go faster, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of my girlfriends, she just gave birth not too long ago, and she said she got on the elliptical right before she went to the hospital. I'm like, really? She's like, oh, yeah, the birth was, you know, much more perfect as a result of that. Like, there's just no excuse.
It's all how we frame it.
It's how we frame
choose
it.
to frame it.
Yes.
Right. And that takes effort. It takes mental effort and focus.
And practice.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and with our athletes, sports psychology, we don't tell our athletes what not to do. We tell them what to do. Because if you focus on what you're not supposed to do, your mind, like you said earlier, is going to go to that place.
That's right.
So, you know, bring that foot forward, you know, bring your elbows up, lift your chest up. Like those cues is what we need to focus on. So
exactly.
Stop focusing, especially for people who are looking to lose weight. Stop focusing on, I messed up and I can't do this and I can't do that and I'm going to a party and I can't eat this. That's why people are failing.
Yeah.
We got to really change our mindset and our self-talk.
Yeah, and we give our energy wherever our focus is, right? So we lend our potential to that. So we shouldn't be anti anything. We should not be anti-poverty. We should be pro-abundance, feeding the world, right? We should look at the positive side to every effort and not the negative side. We don't want to be anti anything. We want to be pro things we believe in.
That is correct.
And,
I mean, look at the mess that's going on in, you know, our nation right now. We need to be pro-love, pro-everything, and people need to be the change they wish to see in this country. Stop complaining about what they don't want and focus on what you want.
Future vodcast, right?
We have to.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I understand that people have their opinions and their thoughts, but at the end of the day, that's just stimulating more hate and anger, and it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
And we're counting on those people to take us to the next level.
Right.
Right?
So what I would just recommend for people to give people actionable ideas right now is, write down if you haven't already exactly what it is that you want. And don't worry about whatever excuses would steal that away from you, what your desire is, right?
Yeah.
God gives you those desires. They're in you. They were sent to you. And you're here on earth to fulfill those desires as long as they don't violate the rights of others. You need to be what you can be, what you have in your heart that you can believe you can be.
Yes.
And then identify the excuses you've been using that have held you back if you haven't been accomplishing to a satisfactory level what your goals are. There's reasons why. There's excuses or alibis you've been giving for your lack of success. So identify what those are and then choose to ignore them. It's kind of like we all have fear about certain things, certainly fear of failure. Maybe we have a fear of the insecure feeling of someone might leave us in a relationship or whatever. We all have fears and we all have doubts. That's the human condition, right? George Patton, World War II hero, general of the Third Army, he was interviewed once. I listened to this interview, an old grainy film, and the interviewer asked him, "Aren't you scared? Don't you have fear in battle?" Because he seemed so courageous, And he says, "Absolutely, I'm scared. It terrifies me to be in battle, but I don't take counsel from my fears." I thought, isn't that beautiful?
That's very beautiful.
You do not have to take counsel from your fears. And you will have excuses, plausible excuses come into your mind for why you can't do something, but you don't have to take counsel of those. You can learn to kick those, to fault out of those excuse patterns.
And I want to elaborate on that too. Yeah. Don't take counsel from people who are, validating your excuse.
Right.
Because you're going to have family, you're going to have friends. Oh, you can't do that. No, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
When I created my phone app, I had family saying to me, "That's very expensive. Maybe that's not something you should do." And I was like, watch me.
Yeah.
I want the world to know how to eat right. So if it's going to cost me a lot of money, then this is what I'm doing.
Right.
I didn't take counsel for, other people's fears and doubts.
Yeah, thank goodness, right?
Right.
Right. It's always going to be the minority that choose to do something big to rise above the average, right? There has to be an average.
Yes.
That's okay. But if you choose not to be the average, if you have some aspiration that would fill you up, that's what we want to coach people as far as principles they can utilize and different ways of looking things to empower them to do that. But it's never going to be totally popular, Misery loves company, and people want you in a way, maybe in a subliminal way, but they kind of want you to fail because they don't want to feel uncomfortable where they are if you just move past them, right? And so there's always going to be those people that secretly, they would be more comfortable if you didn't do something big around them, right?
Well, what you could say to them is, here's my hand, come with me.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Because if you want that person in your life, then it doesn't mean you have to leave them in the dust.
Right.
Show them the way. Be the example.
Right.
Okay? Because people do want to be led.
I know.
They just don't know who to follow.
And sometimes they see possibility through you. So really we owe it to the human family to succeed, so that we are leaving evidences to other people that they can succeed as well, right?
That's right.
We can talk till we're blue in the face, but you've heard the old saying, "I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are too loud."
Yes.
We have to show.
That's
and
right.
So we make the world better as we create the life that we want, and then we demonstrate the principles that we've learned to get there.
Yes.
And then teach and motivate through our example and help other people be inspired. There's so many people that have inspired me through their stories, some that I know and some that I've just read about.
Yes.
But they create possibility in my mind that wouldn't be there without their life example. So we need to do that for other people.
Yeah, and the first step is to be open.
Yeah. And honest, right? Just completely honest.
With yourself.
Right. Right. We have to be honest. And when we're making excuses, we're not honest.
Right. So stop making excuses because we don't want to hear it.
Right. That's it. Jump me in with my quote. I do have a favorite quote on this. And my kids all know this quote. But any excuse, however valid, softens the character. It works as a sedative against one's own conscience. When a person makes an excuse, they attempt to convince themselves and others that unsatisfactory is somehow acceptable. They are perhaps unconsciously diverting attention from performance, the only thing that counts, to their own want for sympathy. And the user is dishonest with himself as well as with others. So that steals your potential. Let's not make excuses.
No excuses.
Let's win. That's it.
This has been Fit Because, hosted by Jennifer Zerling
and George Viter. Be sure to follow us on social media at Fit Because Show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And for past episodes, be sure to visit our website at fitbecause.com.
Also, please subscribe to our show on iTunes and be sure to rate and comment. You may always request topics for our subsequent episodes.
And if you love this episode, please share it with someone you love so that we can continue spreading our mission to help people be fit.
Until next time, take care of yourself and know that your future is
Fit Because.